Blind Foundation New Zealand. Sonar Interactive. Twisted Tales. Red Riding Hood.
Info button. Double tap to select. Settings. Share. Checkpoint. Button. Play story. Share. Button. Double tap to select. Play story. To go back to previous screen. Settings. Back. Play as Wolf. Play as Red. Back. Back.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl who lived on the edge of a forest. Her name was Amelia, but no one ever called her that. Instead, she was known as Red Riding Hood for the hooded riding cloak she always wore. This day, Red Riding Hood was very excited because she was allowed to go into the woods by herself. Her grandmother had been sick for a while, and Red's mother wanted her to take some food to the old lady in case she wasn't well enough to look after herself.
You're a good girl, Amelia.
Red, Mother. Call me Red Riding Hood.
You're a good girl, Amelia. I don't like letting you go into the woods by yourself, but I'm worried about your grandmother, and I have to look after the other children. Now promise me you'll stay on the path and not leave it for any reason.
I promise, Mother.
Good. There are rumors of a big bad wolf in the forest, and other dangers too. But if you stay on the path and go straight there and back, you'll be fine.
Yes, Mother.
Here's the basket with the food. Oh, her favourite things. Ham, cheese, bread, and a little packet of pepper. Your grandmother's very fond of pepper.
Red Riding Hood kissed her mother and set off down the trail. At first, she skipped happily, but after a while the basket started to feel heavy. She set it down for a rest. As she looked at the food, she realized how hungry she was herself. If she ate a little, the basket would be lighter, and her grandmother wouldn't miss it because she wouldn't know how much was there to start with. What should she do?
Eat some of the food. Take the food to Grandma.
Settings. Back. Settings. Red Riding Hood. Eat some of the food. Take the food to
Red Riding Hood was cross with herself. Her grandma was sick and needed good food. She shouldn't have even thought of eating it herself. She picked up the basket and carried on down the path.
Hello, little girl.
Oh, you startled me.
And what's your name, my pretty one?
I can't tell you. My mother said I shouldn't talk to strangers.
And good advice that is, too. Did she tell you anything else?
She said that there was a big, bad wolf living in the woods.
She's right. So it's lucky that you met me. I'm the big good wolf. And while I'm around, the big bad wolf doesn't dare show his face.
Please let me pass, Mr. Wolf. I have to visit my grandmother. She is not feeling well.
Well then, I think you should take her some flowers. That would make her feel better. There are some beautiful flowers just a little way off the path in that direction.
I can't. Mother said I must stick to the path.
Didn't she also tell you not to annoy big bad wolves?
I thought you were the big good wolf.
Yes, of course. But it wouldn't take long, and the flowers would please your grandmother so much.
Go and pick flowers. Refuse to pick flowers.
Pause button. Rewind. Refuse to pick flowers.
No, I'm sorry, Mr. Wolf. I'm sure you mean well, but Mother said I must stick to the path, so that's what I'm going to do.
Well, if you don't want your grandma to be happy, that's your choice. I'll be on my way.
The wolf ran off down the path in the direction of Grandma's house. Red Riding Hood was uneasy, so she walked more quickly. She soon arrived at her grandmother's cottage. It looked just as she remembered. Whitewashed walls, pretty blue window frames, flowers in pots outside. But something was wrong. It was quiet. Too quiet. Where was the bird song? Where was her grandma's happy humming as she made her jam? Red Riding Hood swallowed nervously and knocked on the door.
Come in, my dear.
That's odd.
Thought Red Riding Hood.
Grandma must have a cold. She sounds very hoarse.
When the door swung open and she stepped inside, things seemed even more odd. Grandma was wearing her usual floral dress with a frilly bonnet tied round her head, but her nose had grown surprisingly long. Her eyes were dark and fierce. Her breath smelt of meat instead of strawberries, and she had clearly forgotten to shave.
Hello, Grandma.
Hello, my dear. Do come in. Oh, a basket. Is it for me? Do let me see what's in it.
Ask Grandma about her ears. Ask Grandma about her arms. Ask Grandma about her teeth. Give Grandma the basket.
Pause button. Rewind. Give Grandma the ask Grandma about her ears.
Grandma, what big ears you have.
All the better to hear you with.
Ask Grandma about her arms. Ask
Pause
Grandma
button.
about her
Rewind.
teeth.
Ask
Give
Grandma
Grandma
about
the
her
basket.
teeth. Ask Grandma about her arms.
Grandma, what big arms you have.
All the better to hug you with.
Ask Grandma about her teeth. Give Grandma the basket.
Pause button. Rewind. Give Grandma the Red Riding Hood. Ask
Grandma, what big teeth you have.
All the better to eat you with. Ah!
The wolf tore off the clothes and leapt at Red Riding Hood. She only had a second to decide what to do.
Run away. Throw
Pause
Pepper
button.
at the wolf.
Rewind. Throw Pepper.
Red Riding Hood dodged out of the way and rolled sideways. Scrambling in the basket, she found the packet of pepper. She tore a hole in the side and threw it just as the wolf dived at her again. The wolf was no longer interested in Red Riding Hood. His eyes were streaming with tears, and he was sneezing continuously. He appeared to be choking. Then he gave the biggest sneeze of all, and Grandma flew out of his mouth. The wolf raced out the door, still crying and sneezing. Red Riding Hood stared at her grandmother, lying on the floor. She quickly wiped the wolf goo from Grandma's face. There was a very slight movement in the old lady's chest, but as Red Riding Hood watched, the movement stopped. In desperation, she picked up some of the spilled pepper and sprinkled it under Grandma's nose. There was an agonizing pause. And then her grandmother sneezed loudly and began to breathe again. Red Riding Hood breathed a huge sigh of relief. When Grandma had recovered a bit, she fed her the ham, cheese, and bread. Grandma was so grateful she didn't even complain that there was no pepper to go with it.
Liked our story?
The end.
Please write a review. Yes. No. No. Button. No. Button. No. Yes. Liked our story? Please write a review. No. Yes. What is 7 plus 5? Minus 7. Button. 12. 20. Minus 1. Button. Minus 6. 12. Minus 7. What is 7 plus 5? Minus 12. Red Riding Hood. To go back to previous. Voiceover on. At portrait. Today, return to Red Riding Hood. Red Riding Hood. To go back to previous. The end. Rewind. Pause button. Checkpoint. Fast forward. Fast forward. Fast forward. Check. Pause. Rewind. The end. Red Riding. Back. Back. Info. Button. Info. Button. Double tap to select. Settings. Info. Settings. Share. Checkpoint. Play story. Extras. Play story. Share. Button. Double tap to select. VoiceOver off. Checkpoint. Button. Play as red. Play as wolf. Back. Play as wolf. Button. Choose one of the following. Choose one of the share on Facebook. Share on Twitter. Buy for $1 Back. Settings. Back. Settings. Info. Settings. Share. Checkpoint. Play story. Extras. Play story. Play as wolf. Choose one of the following. Share on Facebook. Share on Twitter. Button. Share on Twitter. Buy for $1 Back. Settings. Share or buy. To go back to previous screen, locate the back button in the share button. Double tap to select. What is 5 plus 4? 13. Minus 20. Button. Minus 9. VoiceOver on. Port Red Riding Hood. Message.